Peace, love, and blessings. Hello, everyone. If you are unaware, I am Goddess Akasha, and today we are having a primordial council. So I'm just gonna give it some time because I do have a guest coming on today. But before anything, what I want to do is I want to give a few updates or announcements, I should say, right? Okay. Peace, peace. How are you? How are you? Okay. So today has been a very interesting day. Okay, so today, April 5th, we had a small earthquake, about 4.8 magnitude in New York. And that's a big thing because obviously on the East Coast, New York is not a place where earthquakes really happen. So the fact that it happened is very, very significant because it is in alignment with everything else that's going on with Mama Earth. She is basically setting things straight. She's shaking things up. She's just like, yeah, now's my time. So, okay, so before this, right before this, about 19 hours before this, the night before, there was a lightning strike that hit the torch of the Statue of Liberty, also in New York. Okay? And if you know the Statue of Liberty also represents a new turning point in history. It's supposed to have represented the abolishment of slavery, which is why there are shackles on her feet. The horns or the spikes coming from her crown is supposed to represent the rays of the sun, to represent her divinity, her wisdom, the new form of government or much more just system, right? So that was stricken. And then right after that is an earthquake in New York, just shaking it up. And then we have, of course, the solar eclipse that's coming on 4/8/2024. Okay, and it's really, really interesting because the level of magnitude from the earthquake today was 4.8, and the eclipse is on 4/8. Very interesting. So it's a lot of alignment that's happening right now, right? So, basically, this is all symbolism. Just the fact that we are having a total solar eclipse, what that represents is the sun going behind the moon, which means the feminine energy is being pushed to the forefront, which means this is the time when a new era is beginning. So the matriarch rising, everyone who has been talking about it, this is the event that marks the beginning of this particular era. So this means that we are coming to an end of the patriarchal or the Abrahamic gods. That's done. So people in general should be awoken. We have been seeing the level of consciousness rise over the past 2 or so years, which was like an indicator in itself. But now we're having all of this astronomical signs in the heavens that's basically omens and showing us that this is the time. So people have always asked me like, oh, well, the matriarch is rising. When is it going to happen? Like, what is it that we have to look for? How can I know that it's here? Like beyond just looking at people waking up, right? And the major thing with that is I tell people all the time that the download that I had is that the matriarch will be risen by the next blood moon. Okay? The next blood moon. Now, this particular eclipse is letting us know it's the beginning of this time, right? It's the beginning of this time. And when the blood moon happens is when we will get to see the matriarch out in the forefront, where she's actually going to be putting through everything that we have been needing to restore balance and harmony to this particular planet. Okay? And the mother is making sure that this happens on a cosmic level, on a planetary level, and also this is the work that we're doing on the humanity level, right? So, yes, I just wanted to bring that out for because it's relevant for today. But again, we can do a little bit more talking about that in a second because there are things that we can do to prepare and also things that we can do on that particular day. But I want to bring up I want to bring up my guest, and you should be aware of her. She is the mother. So let's welcome Miss Angel. Today, the topic is going to be purity culture. And I think it's just so prevalent now because now that the matriarch is rising, it's time we start establishing what this new culture is going to be. Well, honestly, it's not a new culture, it's really an old culture. But for those of us who have no idea what matriarchal culture is, we are basically reestablishing what our divine culture is, and we're putting it to the forefront so everyone can know. No, I cannot see. Oh, you're on? Hello? Hold on. Let me see. I pressed it. Hmm. Let's see. Hopefully, I don't have to start the live over. Okay, great. Hi, beautiful.
So,
How are you? Okay, great. I'm glad that it's working because I
mhm.
was not trying to have another episode of the other day.
Yeah, that's what I
uh,
mother. What's up? That's what I thought it was for a second. I'm like, is she
I mean,
talking to me?
I
Cause
pressed accept for a couple times. I don't know what
Mhm.
was happening, but yes, I'm so glad that you're here. And yes, I wanted to talk about purity culture because there's so much talk around um, what matriarchal culture is, how it differs from the culture that we're currently living in,
Mhm.
right? And I most definitely want to talk about it for in the conscious community because one thing that I've noticed with us who supposedly have the knowledge, for a second, separate from the sleep people, right?
Mhm.
For those of us who have the knowledge, it doesn't matter what uh religion or school of thought we subscribe to. For some reason, there's always a dictation on how women should express their femininity, and it's always coming from the male, right? It's always coming from the male, and it doesn't really matter which thing we're talking about. So I just wanted to know, you know from your side, being that you founded Manumi, what is the culture around how a woman should dress or express herself?
Okay. So for me, I feel like this kind of largely has to do with the fact that women are a natural resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, without talking y'all head off, right? The womb is the utmost important natural resource on this planet, right? Because it determines what portals into our reality, right? So say for example, uh, say there were two men in front of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bob and John. Both Bob and John have an agenda to further their bloodline and to reproduce themselves back into society.
Mm-hmm.
So the man that I choose is the man who will get to continue his bloodline, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's very valuable. And what I think purity culture is man's attempt to control and monitor and capitalize off of natural resources, right? So you
Yes.
don't get to decide whose DNA you're going to reproduce. I decide that for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is where you get arranged marriages.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you get, save yourself into marriage, and the father is the one who has the right to determine who you're going to marry, and blah 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 blah. It's
Right.
all a capitalism of a natural resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from my perspective, I don't think that guarding the womb is an issue. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that practicing, modesty or purity within itself is an issue. I think that issue is not in the hands of, I think the issue is that it's not in the hands of women, right?
Right. Right. Right.
It is something
Absolutely.
that is being used as a restrictive tool against us rather than a honoring of self, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we practice very heavily here in Manumi.
Mm-hmm.
We are not here to dictate anyone. We are not here to, sell anyone. We are not here to arrange anyone's marriages. We are not here to tell someone that, they have to cover from head to toe if that's not what they wish to do. However, um, I think that there tends to be a perversion of the natural body, right? And I think that we have to be realistic with where people's minds already are.
Mm-hmm.
So, being that a lot of us have already been indoctrinated to view our bodies as nothing more than sexual objects, I think it's kind of unrealistic to think that we're going to go walk around each other butt naked and not conjure up those same thoughts and feelings, right?
Right.
So I'm all for the balance. I'm all for
Mm-hmm.
protecting one's modesty and keeping the focus on where it should be. Sorry, my baby is like pulling my cord. But,
Hi,
you know,
baby.
not restricting the free will of others either, not imposing yourself
Mm-hmm.
onto the free will of women. But yeah, so that's my stance with that.
Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because there's a few things that you mentioned. You mentioned women's free will
Mm-hmm.
to dress how she will. And you also mentioned at the same time that we are in an era where our conscious level would not allow all over nudity like that.
Yeah, we're
So
not there yet, I don't think.
we're not there yet. No, I can agree to that. I can most definitely agree to that because I am what you call a hardcore nudist. Okay, I wear clothes for y'all. But
Okay.
but just from my understanding, all the research that I've done, everything that I know about our ancient culture is that we were bare-breasted, especially in those particular climates that allowed for it. We didn't really wear too much. Like, you know what I mean? Whether we're talking about Native Americans, people in different countries in Africa, people in, the Amazons, like as much as I could think about of any ancient culture, most people did not wear much. You know what I mean? And everybody knew their role. Everybody understood the sacredness of the body. Everyone understood these things. And I'm trying to make sure we get back to that. So as long as we're on the road,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're on the road, then I think that is good, which is why I have been implementing, so far I've been implementing subtle appreciations of just viewing the vagina, the yoni, right? That's a part of
Mm-hmm.
everything that I teach. So it's in the symbol itself. So I get people to make sure that if they're making their altar, put a yoni picture there so you can get into the practice of being able to see a portal to another dimension rather than, oh, I want to like, you know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
got to be able to get
Yeah.
past that, but it takes practice. So we got to put in the work. Like, I don't want to just not do it because we're not ready yet. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I
Right.
want us to get into the practice of making sure we know how to see the female body in a holy manner. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
I
So,
think that starts with the kids though. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that
mm-hmm,
our biggest move in that direction is going to be simply raising our children without that perversion, right? In a
right.
culture
Absolutely.
that doesn't
Absolutely.
hypersexualize and teach like, oh, oh, her ass fat. Like that doesn't teach that type of energy and ingrain that into our
Right.
kids, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. But as far as like again, I think modesty is a personal journey. I don't think that is something
Mm-hmm.
somebody else should kind of stand over you and tell you this is how you conduct yourself. This is how you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Me
Absolutely.
personally,
Absolutely.
yeah, me personally, I feel like it's my portal. It's mine. I don't
Right.
want you to see it,
Right.
and that's
Right.
that's my piece.
Mm.
Um, hmm
And
hmm
I respect that. I like I'm definitely one of those you know, I'm claircognizant. So I'm also empathic. So I feel a lot of emotions. So through my emotions, depending on the energy of the day, no matter what it may be, sometimes I want to cover up. Sometimes I don't feel like wearing anything because to me it represents a physical restriction to my spirit.
hmm
You know what I mean? So that's where I am. So as far as just helping in general, like I know inside of Black homes, I don't know any other culture, but inside of Black homes, we should be used to seeing our mothers naked. I don't know, but
Oh,
I don't know about every
we are.
household. You know what I mean? So I think we're pretty good on the children part. I don't know where it switches, and I think it has to do with society and going outside and being around peers and going into a world where they do sexualize the body. But when you're growing up, you're used to seeing your mom, she
hmm
hanging, swinging around, like, you know what I mean? Like that's moms, you know what I mean?
hmm
So um, I think we need to keep that because I think right now there's a lot of discourse on TikTok about how you should dress in front of your children. You shouldn't be naked in front of your children. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, that's not how I grew up. I grew up and it was just regular. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you as a child are not going to have those thoughts unless those thoughts are put and conditioned into you. Like, you know what I mean? Children growing up do not know what sex is. They don't know what it is. So it's not something that they're going to inherently have. You know what I mean? So I think we need to keep that going. But also, I think this is why it's so important that we create our own environments
hmm
as well so that we can make sure the schools that they're going to and what they are exposed to outside media, what they're watching, things like that, and who they're around. Like it should be people that all have the same frequency, other kids, so that we can make sure they're not being whatever they're learning from home is not being erased as soon as they walk out the door.
Right. Exactly. That's why I'm big on homeschooling.
Yes,
But I do want to add,
absolutely.
I think that sex is a natural development in the sense of I do feel once puberty starts to kick in, once those hormones start
Yes,
raging, people are
yes.
going to naturally develop those feelings and those inclinations. However, I think the direct association with nudity
Hmm.
to sex is something that's taught, right?
Yes,
I don't think our
absolutely,
brain is
absolutely.
is designed to naturally think, "Oh, breasts, it's time to fuck." Like, I don't think that that's how that works. You
Right,
know.
right, right.
Um.
Absolutely. And even with that, I'm glad you brought up, even with that, I think when it comes to sex education, I think it should come from your parents. I think it should come from the
mhm,
moms, the mothers. You know what I mean? I don't think that it should be something that should be taught in elementary school by any random teacher. Like, you know what I mean? I think that that is a violation of the child. I think that is too sacred for a child to get from any outside source. That's just how I feel about that.
I don't think they should be learning shit from school. In my humble opinion, like if you want to know
I
how
mean,
I
well,
feel
yeah,
about it.
we're homeschooling now, right? But as we grow our community,
hmm
I want to make sure that there are those mothers who have excelled in homeschool and that's what their talent and gift is, that we bring those mothers together to create a school for ourselves. Like, you know what I mean? People that we trust, that we know, like that we manifest with, things like that. So, ultimately, I'm in my mind speaking in a near future.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, school.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I think that's still a form of
Yes.
homeschooling because
Yes.
it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to have a community and a culture and know that when I walk into this school or this building, I'm gonna see people and things that reflect our culture, as opposed to sending your kids to a school to where you don't know what these people think, you don't know what these
Right.
people believe,
Right.
you don't know
Right.
what your
Right.
child is being taught. So yeah, agree, Craig.
Right.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
how do you feel? This is off topic, but how do you feel about Dr. Umar Johnson's school?
So let me start off by saying I'm not the type of person that does like heavy research into individuals unless I'm inclined to, right? So Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Umar is one of those people that I've seen a lot of around.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard him speak about the school, but I haven't done the personal in-depth research to understand what he's doing and what's going on with that. So that's what I'm
Right.
going to say. I like the concept. I like the
Mm-hmm.
concept and the idea that he had, but I'm not sure what's going on with the execution.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just a bit of from what I remember, um, the concept or the execution in general is it should be done. The last time I checked, the school should be finished. He just had to do the HVAC systems, but there's running water, electricity, all that good stuff. And I think he's opening the school in the fall this year. So it's pretty much done.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept around it is he's going to make sure that, well, first it's going to be an all boys school. He wants to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that there's an all boys school and then an all girls school,
Yeah.
but it's going to be centered around, just everything we need to know. Of course, the regular, English, math, arithmetic, all those things. Plus, African-centered spirituality will also be a part of that school as well. He also said that he wanted to get into Black power as well. So um, they're going to be learning to appreciate themselves for how they are, their hair, how they look, things like that, because he does not believe in, mixing of races. We know that part. So yeah, they're gonna definitely love their hair, their coils, their skin complexions, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be an all Black, all boy school for
Yeah. So
now.
everything that I
Yeah.
had heard about it, I was messing with it. I enjoyed for the most part, I feel like I'm
Mhm.
in agreement with many of the concepts. Even in Manumi, we had plans on having, we don't like to look at it as like as a school because it's
Mhm.
a lifestyle. It's not something, oh,
Right.
I'm walking to school and I'm clocking into this mentality and clocking out when the bell rings, right?
Mhm.
But we planned on having separate ways of life for men and women, young boys and young
Mhm.
girls who are preparing to become men and women.
Right.
Having the matriarchs, guide the women into womanhood and usher them into what it means to carry a womb, right? And
Mhm.
having the patriarchs step in and lead the young men, right? Um,
Right.
so I like that concept just because we do have vastly different roles and
Mhm.
vastly different ways of developing. Um, and I think that those things deserve to be attended to. And I feel like a lot of the issues that we have in society is because our masculinity and femininity are not being directly attended to and cultivated,
Right.
right?
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited for
hmm
that. I'm excited for that. One other thing, as well as purity culture, since we're speaking about guiding the young girls into womanhood or knowing what it means to have a womb, right?
hmm
How are we going to be instructing them when it comes to marriage? So I bring up I bring up the question,
hmm
should she wait till marriage, for sexual activity? Like, how are we instructing the young girls on that?
Um, so here at Manumi, we don't believe in waiting until marriage. I think that that's a little idiotic. No offense. No offense to those who practice that. I just don't think that it makes sense to marry someone, become
Mhm.
one flesh with them, and then figure out what it's like to live with them. and then figure out what it's like to be intimate with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then decide, I don't really like this. Like this is not for me. And now you're in this awkward position where you're forced to deal with it, or you have to separate and divide your family. So we believe in a more structured approach to dating, in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of where the parents, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of chaperone their children through the journey of dating, right? So we'll have
Yeah.
a age around 16 is what we're thinking right now, of where they're
Mm-hmm.
allowed to start courting, right? Um, and we guide them through that process. How to date. You're not sneaking out of windows and lying about dating. You're allowed to date, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you navigate disagreements without them becoming arguments? How do you navigate learning someone's natal chart and their energy and how it aligns with yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just really holding their hand and cultivating them through that process so that by the time they are ready to start their family and, marry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's from a very informed space, and it's not from a space of having been sneaking out of windows and hiding and ducking behind corners and
Right.
then just running off into the sunset with whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so we definitely believe in structure, but not to the point where it's stifling the natural energy
Right.
that's going to happen anyways.
Right, absolutely. And it's crazy because I have the same idea. Same thing for Yonism, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, teenagers are like you said, chaperoned.
Mm-hmm.
Watch now. But definitely guided in that area. Um and also just making sure that they are very educated about sex, because I think that's usually how we end up so damaged now as adults, is
Mm-hmm.
because we leave children to learn about these things on their own. And then we kind of hold girls back, from even trying to date, and push boys out there to spread, and just be active.
Mm-hmm.
And the way in which we just handle the next generation, moving forward, is just so irresponsible. So I'm so glad that, you and I are aligned in that area where we're kind of like, okay, once they are teenagers, because at the end of the day, once puberty hits, there's going to have to be some talks, because they're going to have natural curiosity. They're going to want to know, like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to definitely do a lot of verbal education, and then also guide them through that time. Also let them know that it's a part of, growing up. It's a rites of passage that you have to go through. And what's big with me is I'm going back to the old ways. Okay. So when it comes to courting, I'm big on the boy should have to learn a couple of skills that he would need to be with that girl. So he should be able to build a house, or know how to build a house before he's able to get married.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I feel, before he's able to start. You know what I mean? That's just how I feel about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big.
Yeah, I think that's again. I think that's the idea we were going for with the concept of having the different lifestyles. As far as having the kids around middle school age branch off into their own specific, schooling, tutoring,
Mm-hmm.
mentorship, where the young boys are learning what it means to be a structured ordained leader, what it means to
Mm-hmm.
be a male, a father, a brother, a uncle, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Important skills that he'll need to lead and protect his family, or just protect if the woman leaves. That's a whole, we can get into that. And then on the other side, the young girls learning the things that they're going to need to know going into a relationship. Yeah, so I feel like by the time dating is even a conversation, by the time you even start
Mm-hmm.
getting aroused, you should already have a clear idea of
A
what your
good.
responsibility is. That's one thing I
Right.
don't like about this society, is because we don't have a culture, because we don't have a structure.
Right.
You have these 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids that are just walking around like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I am. I don't know what my role is in society. I'm just out here. And then when you turn 18, everybody's like, oh, what do you want to be? Like, I feel like it's
Right.
supposed to be ingrained into
Mm-hmm.
them that this is my bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
This is the tribe that I come from. This is the role that I play in my tribe. And you should know this growing up. And you should be
Right.
developing the skills for this as soon as you're able to walk, not, 18 years down the line, right? You
Right.
should already have a
Absolutely.
strong sense of who you are and your place in society before you even start thinking about who you're about to sleep with. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, how are we going to handle menstrual, or the girls coming to have their first menstrual? For me personally, it's going to be a celebration. It's not going to be seen as dirty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be seen as dirty. She's going to obviously have to have a ceremony of coming of age ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And, in ancient times, it was symbolized by the girl going on a swing,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that this is now her flow. You know what I mean? So I want to bring that back. And, just in general, teaching her the ways, just in general with us as grown women, going back into those ceremonies where we come together, bleed together,
Mm-hmm.
chant together, do our dances around a bonfire. And this is
Yeah.
the thing, though, I want to make sure we know how to get comfortable free bleeding into the earth. I want to make sure we get comfortable with those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I want to get back to.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's actually how we met each other, was when I found your post about the ancient, blood
Oh
rituals
yes,
and
yes, yes,
menstruation,
yes,
right?
yes,
So that's something that's very
absolutely.
important to me as well. I want to bring back those powerful womb circles, right? Where, because
Mm-hmm.
our wombs do that naturally. When we get around each other, our periods sync up. That's for a reason, right?
Right,
And
right.
I do want to bring back the sacredness to it all, because I feel like right now society treats it very much like oh, you got your period, put a cotton ball in
It's
there
it's it's,
and keep it
it's,
pushing.
it's like,
Like
an
it's not.
inconvenience. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? It's like something that I know right now. I with it coming with pain, right?
mhm,
With it coming with pain because of our diets and us not doing it properly, it
mhm,
becomes a nuisance. Like, we're in pain. Some of us get headaches. Like, and then we have to look at men who do not get it. They're able to just get up and go, and they don't have anything stopping them from doing anything. So
mhm,
sometimes you grow up in this society not understanding your body, not loving yourself, always wishing something else. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So I think
mhm.
it's important that we bring back that, just appreciation for femininity, especially with our menstrual, because it's looked at so bad.
Yeah, and
Looked at
that's
so bad,
that's because we
especially all
don't
the
have
rituals.
matriarchs. That's what I
Yes,
think. We
yes,
don't
yes.
have women that usher other women into womanhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all done very clinically.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done very covert, and like you said, with a lot of negative stigma around it.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely envision a space to where when young girls finally start bleeding, like you said, it's a sense of pride. It's a moment of, you are officially able to bring life into this world. That's
Mm-hmm.
insane. That's not light. That's not nasty. That's not something that's just, let me hurry up and go get a tampon and stuff it
Mm-hmm.
up there. That's something that is transformative. And I've said this a million times before. I truly, girl, speaking of life on this planet, you know, but I said this many times before. I truly believe that a lot of the rituals, the rites of passages that
Mm-hmm.
men have created, were created to imitate the natural rite
Yes.
of passage that women go through, right? Because we don't
Yes.
have to go out and fight a lion in order to experience blood and pain.
Mm-hmm.
When we come of age, that just naturally happens.
Right.
We learn from a very young age that you have to keep pushing through the pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That your pain is a necessary force, right? In order for you to be able to function, right?
Right.
We don't
Absolutely.
have to go in and slit an animal's throat and pour it on the earth, because we naturally bleed, and we
Right.
naturally can offer our blood sacrifice back to Goddess. And I think that
Yes.
these things, we naturally formed a secret society, because like we said, our periods sync up at the same time, and then we duck
Mm-hmm.
off together, like, you know. So I think that a lot of
Right.
things were created to imitate the woman, and then the
It
woman
is.
is then demonized for
Yes.
what, for the blueprint that laid the foundation for all of this, right? So we definitely need to bring that back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We bringing it back, girl. I done got
Hmm.
rid of tampons. We be done with that. So
That's
yes.
interesting.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of those, girl. You know what they put in those, and then we
Hmm.
put it in. Honestly, tampons make your cramps worse. If anyone doesn't know, it makes it worse. It's the bleach that's in the fabric, the cotton,
Hmm.
and all the other chemicals that they do to clean it, to make sure it's sterile. But anyway,
Hmm.
it's supposed to just run down your legs. You know what I mean? But the closest I've gotten is using cups,
Hmm.
menstrual cups, and also period panties, because we in the city, you can't be dripping down the sidewalk. But
Because we were intended to separate ourselves and go into nature, right? This is
mm-hmm,
why
absolutely.
a lot of early goddess worship societies associated the divine feminine with trees, right? And they
Yes.
practiced tree divination. They went out into the woods,
Mm-hmm.
and they made blood sacrifices to
Yes.
trees, and they
Yes.
connected with goddess, right?
Right.
Because we're not supposed to be walking around in the city and
Right.
behind a cash register
Right.
while we're bleeding, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything that they do, whether it's blood and communion, drinking of the grape juice, or whether it's the secret society like Skull and Bones who want to cut their hands to have blood and share it with their brothers, that right there is significant of the womb,
mhm,
and it's bleeding. And that's how people bond together. So even these fraternities, these secret fraternities, are mimicking what they saw because they wanted to have power. You know what I mean? So now it's reversal. All of that is being thrown out the window now.
mhm,
So yes, absolutely.
yep, yep.
So yes, I'm so glad. And what else I wanted to ask you? Oh, oh yes. So when it comes to marriage, I know you told me already, but when it comes to marriage,
Hmm.
are we going to limit or restrict the dynamic or amount of partners a woman can have in her marriage because of her sanctity, or too many phalluses is gonna make her crazy or something like that? Like, this is what they're talking about. This is what they say. So I just want to hear your thoughts, even though I already know, but for the people.
um so me personally, I'm a big believer in quality over quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the slogan for my business: quality over quantity care, right? So I mean that in either direction, meaning just because you have one partner doesn't mean it's a good partner. Just
Right, right,
because you have 10 partners doesn't mean that more is better, right?
right.
Um,
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
I don't necessarily believe in locking other people into monogamy and saying, "Oh, you're only allowed to marry one person," right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, I do believe that acquiring more than one partner should not be something that's done sloppy
Right.
and recklessly
Mm-hmm.
just because you're attracted to this person. And then you have situations to where people, they're in a poly relationship and they break up with this person and they add another one, and then they break up with the third person and they add a fourth
Right.
person, and this
Yeah,
person
yeah.
in it, and then now you're pregnant by this person and that person got a baby, and it's very sloppy. Just one on one can become very sloppy very quickly. So
Right.
anytime that you're
Absolutely.
adding multiple people into something, you're going to be amplifying that
Mm-hmm.
potential of chaos, right? So
Yes.
that's where we stand with it. We personally do think that we will allow Monumian citizens to participate in polyandry, polygamy, polygyny, however they want to do it. However, we do plan on having restrictions in place to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that it's being done in an organized and structured way, such as requiring a time span
Mm-hmm.
in between partners, right? So if y'all try to add a third person and y'all break up, there should be no reason you adding a whole different third person a week later. Like,
Right.
there needs to be
Absolutely.
time, you know,
Right. 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 Right.
it does not make
Absolutely.
sense. Also limiting the amount. That's something that we are kind of big on as well, is
Mm-hmm.
we ideally would like to see no more than 3 people in a union
Per
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 little pod,
like
right?
every triad.
Or my bad, 4. 4 is
Okay,
the
four.
official number that we said.
Four. Like, okay,
4
gotcha.
people in a situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when it gets to 10 and 15 and 20, y'all are doing too much. Y'all are doing too much. Y'all are doing entirely too much. And that's a lot to manage. And when that, if, let me not be negative, if that
Mm-hmm.
goes left, the community has to deal with that, right? We
Right.
have to deal with the fact that you took 10 wives and got them all pregnant, and now you're not talking to 3 of them, and this and
Right. Right.
that.
Right. Breaking
We're
up
gonna have to
families.
pick that up. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's where we at with it.
Right. I like the fact that you want to make sure that there are some standards and restrictions according to that kind of practice. For me, I feel like when you are doing that or vetting any particular person, there should be a courting time. There should be people should be looking at other people's birth charts to see if you guys are compatible. Like there should be a process to how you make your decision on who you should be sharing your energy with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, on this side, I have not thought of a limit because I want to make sure that honestly, I have complete faith in the feminine to know how much she can take, especially once you are joining the community in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be energetically aligned with everybody in the first place. So you would know, like, you know what I mean? You would know how much you can take on and what you can handle. You would know how to vet
Mm-hmm.
partners and you would know what your limits are personally. So the limit I haven't thought of, but, and also I haven't thought of time frame either. I just know that I have personal time frames for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's, it goes without being said that people should not just be collecting spouses like it's a coin collection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like $2 bills. You should not be collecting anyone because anyone who's being collected can feel it because and I think in general, all marriages should get the blessing of the council. Everybody should come to the council and get the blessing for that particular union.
Mm-hmm.
Every partner you should be coming to get a blessing from the council. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because then we would be able to determine whether you guys are compatible and even do some readings to look into whether you guys are fit for each other or not.
Mm-hmm.
So even outside of your own assessment, the council should be doing an assessment like a second opinion. You know what I mean? To basically see if maybe you missed something, maybe you do got a little googly eyes, maybe you are a little digmatized, you can't really see, like, you know what I mean? You need that authority to make sure that it's going to last past the honeymoon phase. You know what I mean? So this is the reason why I personally don't always go into relationships romantic based. I go in mission based. If we're aligned in that way, then the romance it comes to me. It's like a cherry on top, but it's mission based first. So I'm thinking about how we energetically align. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I can't make everybody date that way, but if you come to the council and we deem that is not something that would be beneficial for you to have children, create a healthy household, also benefit the community with your contributions, and is only going to be chaotic, then yeah, then no.
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think we as a collective have to come into this new era understanding that the council or the feminine is the new authority that you have to go to for guidance, not control or conquer or anything like that, but just guidance and making sure that you do have that mother figure, even if your actual biological mother may not be here anymore. Like, you know what I mean? If you need that extra guidance and counsel, Everybody doesn't have a therapist. Everybody doesn't have a mentor, but the
Mhm.
council can serve and be that for the community. So
I
just
agree.
letting everyone know.
I
Yes.
agree. That's so we talked about that heavily as far as that's one thing I'm very strong on, right? Especially being a Capricorn moon, I'm very big on tradition. I'm very
Mhm.
big on structure. And
Yes.
I don't like how lightly our society takes relationships and spreading
Very.
our seed and using our
Very.
wombs to just let any old nigga just portal into this reality 50 times. Like, I don't like that. It irks me. So,
Right. Right. Right.
we already discussed, yeah, if you wanna come together, that has to be approved by the council. If y'all wanna split up,
That
right?
also, yeah, we gotta
That
check.
needs
We
to go
gotta
through the
check.
council.
Yeah, because y'all
Also,
could be going through a bad spell at the time.
mhm. Exactly. And to even for as far as
Mhm.
preventative measures, we also have a no heated argument policy, right? You know, if y'all are disagreeing and y'all feel those emotions rising, y'all feel that energy rising, y'all feel like y'all about to start cussing at each other and hollering at each other, talk to the
Mhm.
council.
Right.
Call a meeting to sit down with the
Absolutely.
council and we can help y'all sort out whatever
Mediate.
y'all issue is before y'all start screaming and hollering and throwing stuff at each other. You
Right.
know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that.
Hmm.
Yes, of course, mediation is it's important. And I think they do that as well with some Christian churches, but I'm not sure if they still do that. But I knew it was a concept where married couples or soon to be married couples would go to their pastor if they are like committed church members. They would go to their pastor to get pre-marriage counseling and then also go to him anytime they needed counseling throughout the marriage. So this is not even a new concept. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So yes, absolutely.
I agree.
Yes. So your thoughts on, well, I want to just speak on divorce because I'm not really a believer of divorce
Hmm.
because divorce to me means an ending. And because nothing in this universe actually ends, I do believe in transfer. Or that's what I
Hmm.
call it. So, in this particular case, if people do want to split or they are not seeing eye to eye and they are, or they just grew out of their season with each other, because sometimes people go through a season and you may have needed that person for that season, um, and you need to transfer, right?
Hmm.
I feel, again, we have to go through the vetting of the new person and all the other stuff to be able to transfer. So I do not believe in just, separation and then boom, is done. But I want to make sure that if kids came from that union, they still have that family, and whomever they split and go with becomes extended family. They basically start a tribe or come together
Hmm.
because those children need to be around their parents, and there's really no excuse as to why a child should not see their parent.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much how I look at it. Is like blended families.
Yeah,
Blended families, yes.
I agree. I don't think the pod should break up just because y'all two personally aren't dealing with each other anymore, especially when we start talking about polygamy and polyandry and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the whole point of that is supposed to be to provide security, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that becomes very unstable if every time somebody wants to break apart from the group, they're like, oh, well, my three, we leaving. And, just take their kids and just dip out you know? So that's
Right,
sloppy.
right.
And I don't like that. So yeah, we definitely discussed the concept of, you know, creating a space to where people can, collectively decide to end their intimate relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm.
However, the children still remain in the same. That's my goal. Is
Mm-hmm.
that if this is the house the children are raised in, this should still be the house the children are raised in when y'all split up,
Right,
right?
absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
shouldn't be a situation where kids have to, spend 5 days over here and 2 days over there
Right,
and drop
right,
them
right,
off at a
right.
plane and all this extra stuff. That's ridiculous. They don't need their life upheaved like that just because two adults don't want to sleep with each other anymore. That's how I feel.
Right. I think this is heavily also dependent on the structure of the community as well. Like the residences, the houses should be close together. So if a child wants to go from, mommy's house, daddy's house, they should be able to walk like a couple of steps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should be an enclosed type of situation if we are not making conjoined houses, which I'm big advocate for. Because one thing I know that in this particular society, me, I don't have children, but just dating men with children, I create bonds with them as a stepmother. And then when I break up with that person, they do not want me to see their children anymore. And I always felt like that's not fair to the child to just have people come in and out of their life. Like we have lost the village concept that's supposed to take care of children. Like completely. So yeah, we have to make sure that that does not happen.
My bad, I'm trying to feed my baby a walnut.
A what? A walnut? They can eat a walnut already? Oh, tiny. It's tiny. Okay.
Yeah, literally. But yeah.
You said if autonomy was practiced, that would be unnecessary. Which part are you speaking about?
I know with us, we plan on doing things from a matrilineal perspective, right?
Right. Yes.
To where the the home belongs to the woman, right? And it's passed down through the daughters, right? And this is the family home. And
Right.
I don't think that there should be anything going on to where, oh, you know, because me and him break up, oh, you're not allowed to come here. You're not allowed to be here. This is the family
Right.
home. This is where the children are
Right.
raised. This is where they'll need to be amongst their family, their father, their uncles, their sisters, their brothers, whatever the case may be. And there doesn't need to be a separation just of the whole community doesn't need to fall apart just because y'all are no longer sexually
Right.
involved with each other.
Right. So you're mentioning autonomy, each their own space. Now, the big thing about that is I think as Black people in America or melanated people, indigenous, African Americans, whatever name you want to call yourself, right? I think we have too much quote unquote autonomy that we don't have identity or culture to the point where we can make any decision for our lives and we have no direction either. You know what I mean? That's the issue with having too much autonomy or cultural freedom. We have no direction and we have no idea who we are, and it takes us a lot of times our whole lives to figure out who we are or what we should be doing, because again, there's really no quote unquote blueprint to life of what you should do. And usually the culture is your blueprint to how you should be living. But because we grew up without one or under the white supremacist system, we are completely lost as a people. So when we have all of this quote unquote autonomy, it expresses itself as individuality or social freedoms. All these social freedoms is what results in STDs everywhere, fatherless homes, people being unalived because, they don't know how to handle their emotions, people not knowing what career they want to go into. So everybody going into anything that they want to do, changing majors in college, people are just lost in general. Like, you know what I mean? So especially when it comes to relationships, we don't have a structure to how we should vet people. We don't know how to share our energy. So we're just lost with everything. So this particular council meetings that we're having is to make sure we are establishing a structure based off of our ancient culture. You know what I mean? And just bring back some sense of self. You know what I mean? So that way we can get back to having a harmonious civilization. Like, where people are peaceful. There's not as much anxiety and stress with everyday decisions because you kind of just have to make it up as you go along, trial and error. Like that whole trial and error thing, it gotta go.
Yeah.
It gotta go.
That's what I was saying earlier. I don't like the what do you want to be concept. I think that you need to know what you're gonna be.
Right, right,
that's
right.
that's the approach I'm planning on
Mm-hmm.
doing with my children within reason, right? They're not my
Mm-hmm.
slaves. However, my bad, I'm rude, y'all. However, we want our children to know from a very, very young age what their role in society is, what you're needed for. Because I'm sorry, love,
Mm-hmm.
we don't need a nail tech right now. We don't need that. There's nothing we can
Right,
do
right,
with
right,
that,
right.
you know?
Right, right. People
So,
are choosing careers based off of how much money it'll make. You know what I
mm,
mean?
exactly.
So yes, absolutely. I think a lot of that has to do with doing readings on your kids, looking at their energy as they're growing up, seeing what their natural gifts are, and also being able to help guide them. Looking at their natal chart, because a lot of times your natal chart will tell you, it should be in your Jupiter to tell you what you're good at, where you can basically thrive in a certain area, and also coupling that knowledge with
Mm-hmm.
what the community needs as well. Like, you know what I mean? Put that
Mm-hmm.
together. Like, oh, you're good at communication. Oh, then we need teachers. You may fit in that role. Like, you know what I mean? So I think putting those things together, we as elders, you know, the council should be able to help people find their way so they're not lost throughout their lives.
Mm-hmm. Have it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, yeah, this is actually really good. So I'm glad that, you brought that up and you mentioned it. Um, but yeah, all of this is really good and I'm taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna basically take some notes after this as I put it on YouTube. So this is going on YouTube.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's all the questions I have for now.
Okay. So I have a couple.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I did hear you speaking about how you don't like the concept of prison, right?
Right, right.
And calling police officers, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I was saying, right, I'm a very structured person. So, I can definitely understand that. I'm not a fan of how our justice system handles itself in many situations. However, I am aware of the need to be able to hold people accountable for their actions and for the negative effects that they have within society, right? So what is your alternative for prison?
Right. So my alternative is to basically assess the problem, obviously. Assess the problem, not just if they're guilty or not, but also what the mental illness may be to see if
Mm-hmm.
we can fix it. You know, but also if it is completely severe, right? Really severe. I'm a big advocate for putting people in nature and seeing if the planet allows them to live. I don't want to say no other way, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel
Survival
like we have
of the
to,
fittest.
if it's out of our hands, like if we can't heal them, then
Exile.
yeah, I think that we should give it to Mama Kai.
So
There you
basically
go, and
exile.
see what happens. Yes, exile.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
even still, not even exile, but if they were to survive after a certain amount of time, then it wasn't their time to transition, and then we can start talking about accepting them back into society, and what we can do with them after that. Because if it's severe again, then they have to become a eunuch. They can't marry. Things like this is what I'm thinking about. You know what I mean? So for that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's either they transition being out in nature. What I mean is by nature is not just leaving the community, but putting them in the forest with no clothes, no tools, no resource to help themselves and see if they can survive it. Like that's my thought.
So in the
Um,
event that we find out somebody has been raping children,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
The response will be exile.
I think the response would be, well, oh no. I don't know, man. That's a serious one. I feel like
Beheading. No.
I mean, my thought is going, but I be trying to stay in my light, feminine energy, But yeah, I feel like if it's something like that,
Mhm.
then they just gotta go. We gotta help them transition early. In my nice words. In
Now,
my nice words,
so I'm here
they
with
gotta
you,
go.
right? I'm here with you. But
Yeah.
we do have to be realistic about the fact that we are a
Mhm.
unit state inside of another nation, right?
Mhm.
So even if we do separate ourselves, get our own land, create our own culture, we're
Mhm.
still under the American military, right?
Right. So with that, it takes 150 people to create their own city,
Hmm.
right? So this is the route that I am planning on taking. Once we gather 150 people, we're able to make our own police force,
Hmm.
right? Make our own laws, our own little, state government, right? And there will be some allowances according to that. And of course, we're going to have to do a case by case basis. I do not feel that it's going to be ridiculous at the beginning. I surely hope not. But again, because we're vetting everyone coming in, it should not get to that so soon. Like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? But
Hmm.
in that case, if we do get to that severity, it should be long down the lines when this American government is no longer the top authority. That's pretty much how I have it in my mind.
Because the only thing I'm
Absolutely.
concerned about, they said I'm echoing. I kind of hear myself echoing too. Do you hear it?
No?
Hmm. Okay, so the only thing I'm concerned about with the exile thing is I think that makes sense when we're in an isolated environment where we're
Yes.
surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of acres of forest. But in the
Yes.
society we live in today, we
Mm-hmm.
exile somebody and they go to Cali. What can we do about that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no. I am open to making sure we get on a plane and putting them in the Amazon myself. It just really depends where we establish ourselves. But I want to make sure that if we can if we can avoid the severe penances, like actually beheading them,
Mhm.
then I would much rather do exile first. But I really want to make sure that I'm giving them back to mama, and I want that to be the punishment. Now, I don't want them to go and just live their life in anywhere like, oh, that was fun, and then they get to go and do it to other people outside of us, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that they can't do what they did anymore, especially if the offense was, child molestation.
Hmm.
That cannot go on. Like, we have to stop them from doing that. So we would have to make sure that they're not just going to live somewhere else.
Hmm.
We got to protect not just our own children, but all children on the planet.
Because in a sense, we're responsible for them. You know, if we've
Yes,
raised them
absolutely.
up, this is a
Absolutely.
Monumian citizen. We can't just unleash them onto the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's why I said I'm totally cool. We get on a plane, escorting them to the forest ourselves, and seeing if they survive. Not throwing them in civilization. You know what I'm
or
saying? Like,
maybe
no.
we should set our base in a country where beheading is legal. I don't know.
I'm
Maybe
okay with that. I'm looking into different countries.
take
So,
to
so
this thing.
yes, I'm looking into different countries. I'm looking into different states. I'm looking at the laws. I'm already on the prowl
Hmm.
for everything that we want to be able to do. Because one thing I do notice is that when people get land, they don't do everything they can to have, you know, full operational freedom. You know what I mean? Like when we think about Dr. York, he was getting fined because he had an illegal club on his land. And the reason why it was illegal is because he didn't get the permit, requirements right, and all the other stuff. He didn't get a
Idiot.
permit. So, but when we look at other people like what's they called? The Rajneeshis, they did everything right. Okay, they was able to get their own military, and they was also able to get their own people on the into the, what you call it, the political seat, the Senate, and things like that of that particular state, even outside of their own particular little city. So that's what we have to do. We have to
That's
make
a plan.
sure, yeah, we have to make sure we do that. Like, more than just establishing our own little city, but also make sure we are having some say so
Mhm.
in the state that we're in, and also in the whole United States, if we get that big, like, you know what I mean? So all of that is a part of the plan, because ultimately the goal, we have to remember this, the goal is freedom.
Mhm.
So yes, we're definitely going political with it as well.
See, that's the reason that I want 18 kids. And that's the reason why I'm very serious about choosing
Mm-hmm.
what their place will be in society, because we don't, like I
Yes,
said, we don't need a nail tech. We need somebody on the chief of police. We need somebody
yes,
to be a
yes,
mayor. You know, we need
yes.
somebody to have political pull in the
Mm-hmm.
county that we live. We can't do nothing with your lashes. You know, we can't, there's nothing we can do with that. If you want to learn to do that for you, then that's cool. But as
Right,
far as a
right, right,
career,
right, right, right.
and that's including myself, because I'm an artist, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
we should take it back to a time where those things were purely cultural. Those
Yes,
were things that we
yes.
did
And it
as a part of
wasn't.
festivity, not as a
Mm-hmm.
career, like our actual
Yes,
place in society. You know?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing when we look at other societies, like women in the Philippines, or women in Africa. That's where we learn about chebe powder and things like that. What do we see? We see women actually doing each other's hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? If we had community properly,
Mm-hmm.
we would have sisterhood, and we would be doing each other's hair as a part of just our everyday culture. And it
Yeah.
wouldn't have to be, oh, I need to go and get my hair done. I have to go pay. I have to go get a service done. It would just be a part of our sisterhood, our culture. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It
Mm-hmm.
frees up people to do other things that's needed for the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And that's
So,
why I don't want to turn into Sister Soldier, but just
no,
reflecting.
you have to be. You have to be. You
That's
have
why
to be,
our
because
people are
no
in
one
the
else is
position we're
doing
in.
it.
Hmm.
No one
Yeah.
else is doing it. Like, we're the true leaders of society. And right now, those who have begged and cried and pleaded to be leaders of the society are only crying for the respect that that earns with it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Even though they haven't earned it, but they still beg and plead and cry for it. You know what I mean? For the benefits of leadership. So if
Hmm.
go ahead, girl.
Girl, get up. Y'all, my baby is a mess. But yeah, that's why I feel like we are in the position that we are as a group of people, because we don't have the organization and the structure to put
Mm-hmm.
our resources, both financial and natural, into the directions that we actually need them in, right? I was just having this conversation recently, is that we don't have an issue with getting our hands on capital. That's not the
Right,
issue. We
right,
don't have an issue with producing capital. The issue
right.
is that we don't
Absolutely.
have any structure or organization for that capital. Everybody's just doing whatever the fuck, right? Like I
Right,
keep saying,
absolutely.
we have a free market, so it's like, oh, I'm just gonna start a business and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make it whatever, and there's no sense of like, is this what my community needs? Is this something
Right,
that we have a
right.
lack of? It's just, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go out and create something and start something with no intent. And I do
Right.
hold women mostly accountable for this, because again, we are the divine portals,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are the things that all things must come through in order to exist on this planet. And so I feel we have not been taking that role seriously enough. Um,
Right.
we have been just allowing any and everything to pass through us. And the result is
Mm-hmm.
chaos, in my humble opinion.
Right. Yeah. So with that, I blame the patriarchy with that. And the reason why is
Mhm.
because while we are the leaders, the portals,
Mm-hmm.
we have also been conditioned to, find our worth in marriage, getting a man, and just popping out babies because we have to further his bloodline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because
Which
we
is
have
idiotic.
not known who we were, right,
Mm-hmm.
because we have not known who we were, we have made a lot of mistakes in the past, few generations. So this is us making it right now. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
we are making those decisions because we have knowledge of self. We know who we are. We understand how the universe works.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're able to make better decisions. Once you know better, you do better, right? We ain't know no better. We can't, fault our parents, our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers and things, like especially when it comes to our grandmothers. Our grandmothers were probably just, getting assaulted, and that's why we have so many aunts and uncles and stuff like that. So, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and just being forced to have children. So as we change the climate, the social climate in this particular country, and we change the political climate,
Yeah.
things will most definitely even out, and everything will be taken and done with more intention. Most
Yeah.
definitely.
I agree. Yes,
Absolutely.
it's the culture. The culture will be the
Yes.
foundation to allow things to rectify themselves. So I did see you the other day. You went live talking about cosmic currency.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, so there's a friend of ours, a very
Yes.
unfortunate, who ended up in very unfortunate position, right?
Oh yeah, I know he's talking about,
So
yeah.
that's where I first heard the term cosmic currency, right? So
Hmm.
is that where that came from, or?
No, once I heard him speak of it, I was like, finally, someone who agrees with
Mm-hmm.
me. That's how it was for
Mm-hmm.
me. That was the first person I heard say it outside of
Okay.
myself. Like, you know what I mean? And actually publicized it,
Mm-hmm.
because I had already been talking about, getting rid of money, or how can we have a society where
Mm-hmm.
we're more about the integrity of the person and being able to, trade services and things like that. Because I have it in my mind, like, oh, we can have somebody come, and fix our sink, and we give them, some food or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much how I have it. And as long as you're always giving, that means you're always receiving. And that has always been my thought behind it. And I think it comes from me in life always trying to turn my gift into a business, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
when I was growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to Claiborne High School, which is a school for nursing, and I did it just because I just had to choose a high school. So I did it, and I went to college for that, and it's because I knew how to do it, not because I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then after that, I'm like, let me go to trade school. So then I went to cosmetology school. So then I'm like, oh, I've always been doing hair. I've always been into beauty. I'm a Libra. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Libra. So that's where I excel at, in that arena. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing I've noticed after doing hair for over 10 years is that I'm stressed, I'm drained, I have anxiety, I don't enjoy it anymore, or I'm unable to enjoy it because now I have to become an entrepreneur. I have to market, I have to make money, I have to charge, I have to, that part I realized was what made my passion
Mm-hmm.
and not enjoyable anymore. So
I
I'm like,
agree.
I know I'm not the one. I know I'm not the only one. Especially looking at many creatives, whether you're a painter, whether you're a singer, whether you play an instrument, you're a guitarist, whatever it may be. There's this stigma about the broke artiste, and the reason why is because it's like we have this particular, God-given passion, but we also have to live in a society. So most times, if it's not a marketable thing, or we're struggling to get into the market, we're going to be broke. And no, we should have abundance and prosperity. The facts that we, the fact that we have these talents, and it shouldn't be stifled either just to get a corporate job or to get a
Mm-hmm.
city job. So that's one big thing, or the first thing I've been wanting to change for the longest. And I was most definitely attracted to the movement of that particular person because they spoke about cosmic currency. That was the thing that really got me to really watch and engage and interact and things like that, because he spoke about cosmic currency. And I never heard no one else talk about it, because especially with the Black Power movement, a lot of it is, oh, we're trying to be millionaires. You should do this and Forex and Bitcoin and oh, let's get into real estate. And that's the talk that I get from our people,
Mm-hmm.
because they feel that if you just find the loopholes in the system, we'll be able to make it, and then we'll have freedom. But I'm always telling people that's not what freedom is. That's
I
not
agree.
what freedom is. So yeah, I had to definitely talk about it. And this was
So
before I had like crazy platforms. So yeah, I wasn't out there for for cosmic currency.
not that.
But yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
So your
yes. I'm
idea of
still going to
cosmic
give it
currency is more so like the barter system, almost like the
Yes,
exchanging of what you offer to the world. When you put something into the world, when you
yes.
truly give something to the world, something will be
It,
given back
it, it
to you. That's
returns.
fair. That's
Absolutely,
fair.
yeah. So it's
Because
all
I
about
think
the
a
flow of
lot of
energy.
people,
Hmm.
including he who shall not be named, right? Um, they kind of think cosmic currency is about, oh, I'm a god, so shit's just gonna fall into my lap because
Right.
I'm
That's
proclaiming
where
it.
the
I'm
mistake
collecting the
was.
elite and
Right,
convicting
right.
the weak, and I'm da-da-da. And so that's the only thing I wanted to make sure. Like, okay, so what is her concept of cosmic currency? You know?
Right, right, right. Yeah, that was an issue, but that's because they didn't have an appropriate leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
They had a wounded feminine in an XY body,
Mm-hmm.
and being that they hail from my city,
Oh Lord.
uh, yeah. So it was just like that person is just one of those what we call hobosexuals. That's the type of person that would link up with a particular woman and be a player because of their physique, how they look, and use that to their advantage. And their ability to gain things is based off of how charismatic they are and how good
Mm-hmm.
in bed they are. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what a homosexual is, and that's what that person basically is, but in spiritual form.
Oh,
Right? So
that's
that's what we
exactly what
got, and
that
that's what we
nigga
saw.
mastered homosexuality. That
Yes,
nigga really mastered that shit. Because
yes,
usually when I see
yes.
homosexual people, it's like, oh, I'm about to go stay with this girl
Right,
and live in her house and drive
right,
her car around. This nigga convinced people to come where he was
right,
and pay
right.
for
And
his
then,
shit. Like,
and then all the people who watched, yo, it really set in when he would go out at a restaurant with all them people. Because when you go to a restaurant, the bill be kind
I
of
know what you about
hefty.
to
Then
say.
he'll
I already
sit
know.
there.
Hmm.
He'll sit there and show the PayPal, show the cash up to the camera, like, "Oh, y'all donating? Thank you for 50. Thank you for 100. Thank you." And then you'll see from the donations, the plates coming out as the donation comes in. Now you see people
Hmm.
ordering. I'm like,
That's what
whoa,
tore me up the most about him because I watched this
whoa.
dude go in Walmart and run up like a $700 bill. And then he
Hmm.
turned to the camera and he said, y'all cash app us $700 or something like that. And do you know they sent that nigga the
They
money? And I was
did.
sitting,
They
and this is
did.
what frustrated me about this movement was
Hmm.
like, this is why I don't want to hear it when our people, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna call y'all out y'all name. When our people make excuses and complain about, oh, we don't have resources, oh, we can't, oh, we need
Right.
reparations to get started, oh, we have resources, y'all just give it to homosexuals, y'all give it to
Right, right.
homosexuals,
And
y'all support homosexuals.
and Isis said you can't deny the power he used though. Yes, the power that he used was siphoned from all of the women that he had around him. We have to remember that certain people like this homosexuality is fueled by the woman. You know what I mean? It's fueled by the woman.
It always
they're not able
is.
to take care of themselves or do anything unless it's the woman, especially these particular men who want to be polygynous and they broke.
It always
Like,
is. When we look at
no.
pimping, when we look at the
Yeah.
music industry, all of these things gravitate and circle around the woman. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, as
Mm-hmm.
women, we have a tremendous responsibility to take accountability and guard the positions that we place ourselves in. Because when you go stand next to that nigga, you validate him. You give him a
Yes,
power.
absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
If he
Absolutely.
would have just been over there in the woods by himself or just him and a bunch of niggas, he would not be where he is. Or, nobody would have ever
Absolutely.
paid attention to him and tuned into him. When they saw all those
Absolutely.
women lined up
Mm-hmm.
behind him, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
It was like, oh, let's help, let's support. I think it was a lot more people able to believe in, in the movement with the
Mhm.
women there.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. So cosmic currency is not what we saw.
Hmm.
It is something totally different. It is basically just the way that the universe works. Okay. What you put out is what the universe returns back to you. That's the law of attraction. You understand what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
if we had a bunch of like-minded people together in a particular community where we're able to make a call or see someone walking down the street and say, oh, hey, I have this thing that I need fixed. Could you come and do it? I have some things, like, is there anything that you need or whatever? Then, even if they say, no, I don't need anything, that could be, they would still be able to go and do what needed to be done. And
Hmm.
it would be a complete understanding of just taking care of people. You have to understand that we are supposed to be of service. Everything in this realm is supposed to be of service. Everybody. You know what I mean? If the earth is of service to support life, animals, and people, the same thing as people, we should be of service to the earth and
Hmm.
each other. We have lost that.
Hmm.
We have lost that. So when I
Everybody's
say
out
cosmic
here.
currency, that's what I'm talking about.
Hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because you scared me for a moment. I'm not gonna lie to you. It, I have trauma around that.
Oh,
So when I see cosmic currency, I'm like,
right,
oh
right,
Lord,
right,
here we
right, right,
go.
right.
So I had to make sure.
No,
Hmm.
no,
Yeah, but yeah,
no.
I think that's
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 funny.
really all the questions I had. I just wanted to wrap our brains around, like, what are what are
Hmm.
what are we going for, right? What are we
Right,
standing
right,
for?
right.
What message
Hmm.
do we want to put out to the people? Um,
Yes, absolutely.
who all still in?
I love it.
Oh, let's see.
I love it. I love it. And I just want to make this clear because I remember somebody asking me this question on that live. They was like, "Oh, well, what do we do with the money we have now?" The money you have now should be used to build the foundation of our community. That's what the money should be used to building our own institutions, building, the houses, going towards the land that we need. Like, it's really about
Mm-hmm.
us. Like, you understand what I'm saying? And so I'm not telling anyone to just quit their job because that would be completely unrealistic and not responsible. You know, you have to do it and be strategic about how we transition into the new currency. So as we build the community, then we can change the mode of currency as we build the community. It is not right now when you have rent come in and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
that's not
let's be
realistic.
smart. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So we have to be strategic and be really, really smart about it. So once the council announces that the currency is going to be changing, that's when you know what to do,
Yeah.
honey.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much how it goes. But I just wanted to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this conversation was definitely beautiful, and I appreciate your energy. I'm so glad that you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you everybody for, coming and watching and being a part of the conversation. You know. But yes, this concludes the Primordial Goddesses for today. And we will be back next week. Um hopefully I'm hoping that I will be up and able next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I will most definitely be, you know, posting updates and things like that. If not, then it'll be the following week. But you know, yes.
All right. Well,
Yes.
just keep me posted. Let me know. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
having me.
Of course, of course. Thanks so much. Love you lots.
Peace, y'all.
Good night, everyone.